What's up, everybody? Phil Mendoza with Alpha Bowhunting, back again with the format that I've done many times before and dabbled with from the days that I was doing Natural Born Hunter with Will to the Championship Bowhunting podcast, then dabbled a little bit with the To The Point show that we did here with some of the team members of the shop at No Limits Archery. And here I decided to continue it, evolve it a little bit, calling this in the DBAP show. For quite a few reasons. For those of you who don't know what DBAP means, excuse me, the PC crowd, don't be a pretender, right? Just that sums it up in its, again, PC form. For my Latino friends out there, don't be a pendejo. It's another meaning there. For those of you that are a little bit more aggressive and maybe don't worry about the ratings too much. Don't be starts with a P. Take it from there as you will. But at the end of the day, my goal with this show, moving forward, as I sprinkle some of these episodes in with some of the other videos that we're starting to release again recently, is to just bring you some perspective from my standpoint as a bow hunter, coming from both opposite side of the counter many years ago to running my own shop to now, having the archery challenge that we do, the Alpha Bowhunting Challenge. In addition to that, the other business that I run that a lot of you don't know about, I help my family run a family-owned demo and excavating company, and it's something that a lot of those life lessons really kind of mesh well with a lot of what we do as bow hunters. And I wanted to get back to this format, not in a super long form. Hopefully going to try to keep it in that 12 to 15 minute range and just sprinkle in a little topic from time to time with maybe a story that's personal to me, a lesson that I've experienced, and having talked to a lot of people more so recently than I had in a while, being at the Total Archery Challenge event in Colorado and our Alpha Challenge finals here a week ago. A lot of topics have come up, a lot of questions were asked, even to the standpoint of, what is our end goal? What is our main goal? What is our purpose here, and what are we looking to really do as we move forward? And I want to touch on a lot of those things. But what I want to start with this video is, and the reason I chose this topic as our first topic back, is archery and or bow hunting. Many times people say, oh, it's 80% mental, 20% everything else. It's 90% mental, 10%. Whatever your ratio is, most people tend to agree and articulate that the bigger chunk of what is archery and bow hunting happens between our ears. And that's where a lot of the topics that I see, and I follow a ton of people on YouTube primarily, where I see videos and I watch other people's content. A lot of the topics are, the arrow builds, the front of center, what type of fletching, what type of tuning methods we do, and, what's the new release, what's the new sight. And we've done some of those videos ourselves, so I'm not acting like everybody's content out there is irrelevant. It's really, a lot of people are really good, okay? I, however, since we started the Alpha Bowhunting Challenge, I feel that the Alpha Bowhunting Coaching Pyramid, we do with our workshops. I've got videos online on alphabowhunting.com that get into that pyramid structure on how we structure our coaching and our classes. And there's a lot of it that comes back to the mental side of things and the methodologies and philosophy. And that's where, those are the things that, because there's so many things that are subjective in archery and bow hunting, those are the things that really intrigue me personally, because there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. There's always better starting points in some respects, but to hear other people's feedback and or opinions is really good, because that's how I feel like I can take something from those conversations. And anyway, that's where this whole DBAP show is going to be focused on, is really the mental side of what is bow hunting and archery. And I think that this first topic, what I really want to start with is just kind of giving you a little bit of background on myself, and where I've learned and what I've learned and how I've learned really has shaped and molded a lot of what I do and what I've been able to accomplish as a bow hunter. And I'm not trying to sit here and toot my own horn like I'm the most accomplished person. I'm not. I really consider myself to be one of the same customers that comes into my shop. I feel like I like to be considered as someone's equal. Maybe a little bit more experience than some, less than others, but nonetheless, I feel like I have some value from my perspective, and that's why I'm here. But to kind of take this back in my story, my dad, for those of you who know my dad, know he's a talkative guy. He's really a social guy. I've learned a ton from my dad, probably learned more from him than any other person on this planet. And those of you who have similar family backgrounds or upbringings, I think it's awesome. So, kudos to you guys who have been able to learn from your father, mother, what have you. But my dad came to this country legally many years ago as an illegal immigrant in the early 70s, in 70, I believe. And he fought his way into another country with a third grade education, learned to read and write here, a second language, learned to read and write English at that, worked multiple jobs, ended up where he married my mom, started a family, and started his own business in 1983, which I was 4 years old at the time. And it was one of those things that my dad is one of those guys that the amount of work does not scare him. It never stopped him. And on the contrary, before he started his own business, he actually worked two jobs. He was working demolition with another company, and he'd get off of work, and then he would go home, shower, and he'd work at a pizza factory where he was making dough for pizzas. So he worked himself up from a laborer up to a shift manager in that 2.5, 3 year time frame that he worked there. And he even got to the point where the owner of the business would let my dad on his break take a nap, around midnight, 1 o'clock, while everybody else is out working, because he knew my dad worked two jobs. So my dad would skip his time to eat, he'd take a nap, he'd go back to work, he'd get off shift, he'd go home, and he'd sleep in the truck for a couple hours, so that way his roommates wouldn't forget to wake him up and he wouldn't sleep in. He would sleep in the truck. So that way when it was time for them to go to work, they'd crank up the truck, they'd wake my dad up, and then he's off to work again. So for me to identify and hear the stories from what it took for him to be successful, and now he's owner of multiple businesses and become a resident of this country, and a productive resident at that, paying taxes, supporting many families not from the support standpoint that I mean like he's paying for them. He's given them an opportunity with jobs and creating lives for themselves. And our family employs over 40 people on the multiple businesses that we run on the demolition excavating side, the construction side. And it's something to think about it, to have a father that came from that little knowledge, experience, and that structure, and essentially kind of ran away from home at a very young age, because he knew the life he was living was not what he wanted to live. It created, the drive was there, and I think that I feel like he's passed on a lot of that to me, I feel a lot of that, because as I've gone through life and I've identified things, starting the shop back when we did in 2009, I didn't know half of what I needed to know, but I probably didn't know 80% of what I needed to know to open a shop. But I felt passionate about giving back to the community and bow hunting from what it had given to me up to that point in my life. And I wasn't afraid to take the jump. There's actually a comment that, I'm not going to say any names, that really kind of pushed me a lot in those early years, that I was out at a range and I just started making it public that I was going to open the shop. And one of the guys that I'd shot against some tournaments, he said, "What are you, an idiot? Nobody makes money in an archery shop." And I kind of thought about it for a second. I was like, man, I wonder if I'm making a mistake. Nonetheless, pushed on, here we are. Many years later, ups and downs along the way. But I feel fortunate to be here. I feel privileged to be able to share some of my story and some of my upbringing with you. And in addition to that, as I continue on with this story, when I was young, 4, 5, 6 years old, my mom was working full-time in the business. My dad was working full-time in the business. So me and my older sister, daycare was at a brickyard. I mean, my dad would go do demolition on houses, garages, bring brick back into our yard. We would clean it, recycle, restack it to resell. So to me, it was normal to sit there and grab a hatchet at 5, 6 years old and start chipping mortar off a brick and start cleaning brick. By the time I was 7, 8 years old, I had negotiated with my dad that he needed to pay me because he was paying everybody else to clean brick. And that's where I think the message for this video, in a lot of how I've put that work ethic into play as I've gone through life, came down to this. It was, most people want the quick, the shortcut now, right? Most people want to see results fast. And back in those days when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, working every summer, not getting to go to Waterworld, not getting to go swimming with my buddies and all that, I was cleaning brick for 2 cents a brick. You clean a brick, you stack it, you get 2 cents a brick. So that whole, value of 2 cents, really, I learned that value at a very young age, and to the point where you want to talk about, we would stack 500 brick on a pallet. The monotony of cleaning brick after brick after brick was, after a while, at first it's cool, I'm cleaning, I'm gonna make some money, and then, you're there for days and days in the summertime in the heat, and you're cleaning brick after brick after brick. And I think that when it finally clicked in me, when I started competing as an archer, and I started traveling nationally, the thought of having to go out and shoot, 75, 100, 125 arrows a day, whatever I had kind of scoped out or planned out in my shot for the week, for whatever I'd planned out, a lot of times you start shooting that many arrows that many days in a row, and you're doing it alone, it gets to be a little bit boring. The gratification factor of shooting with your buddies and beating them on a target or shooting a better, none of that's there. So I think that going back to a lot of what I coach and what I've talked about before, I'm living proof, and my dad even more so before me, of the people that really want to put in the time and learn the discipline that is archery for the purpose of bow hunting. If you're willing to grind and put the time in and be intentional about it, that's the other thing. I have a video course on how to do a shooting journal, and it's like, what, shooting journal? How many people keep a shooting journal? Not very many, or a shooting log. And when I started keeping that log many years ago, it was when I really started to make growth in as an archer and to become more successful, because I was able to evaluate at that moment what I needed, what I did good that session. I would write down what I did good and what I didn't do good. So the beginning of the next session, I start with looking at my shooting log, and I would work on that. So being intentional about what I was doing as I was grinding arrow after arrow, I feel like I was able to get growth it seemed like to me in a faster time frame than some other people. But nonetheless, it took years. So, the whole purpose of this video is to kind of give a little bit of background as to, my upbringing, my dad's upbringing. A lot of people, maybe wouldn't share that their dad, he came to this country illegally, and I'm not embarrassed of that, because I'm proud of him for what he's accomplished, and the things that I have to look at and look up to. And honestly, when it comes down to it, when I really don't want to do something, and I think about some of the stories my dad told me when he was having to do that because he had to survive. I'm talking about work in a standpoint, honestly, with the shop, which things that I love, shooting my bow for bow hunting purposes. And sometimes you get in that funk where you really don't want to shoot your bow, or you're tired, you don't want to get, do your card, whatever it is, getting your gear ready, scouting. And I think about the lessons that I learned from the stories he told me and the example he set for me along the way. And it's just like, I don't have any good excuses, and when you really sit back and think about it, most of us don't have good excuses. So going full circle back to that DBAP, that's where I've really attached a lot more meaning and a lot more accountability to just living by that, because I've got two sons that are really following in a lot of my footsteps, is what I've really hoped that they would. But what I mean by that is them enjoying the outdoors and really wanting to pursue that type of lifestyle and hobbies. But they're really watching me closely. So I'm not one that wants to be the dad that says, just do it this way because I said so. I want them to see me doing things and learn to do it because of that. And I can tell you that from the working outside and the exercise standpoint, my kids love to, and they're very athletic, and they've grown up with my wife and I doing those things, and they're following suit. So to wrap up here on this first episode, back in this format, embrace the monotony. Don't be afraid to grind. Take the time. There's a lot of new archers that are coming into the sport, the activity, whatever you want to call it, for whether it's for bow hunting purposes or just for leisure. And I just want to emphasize, things are going to take time. Enjoy the journey. I say it in my alpha bow hunting workshops. One of the biggest benefits about bow hunting is, most people, they set a goal to accomplish something, and the journey a lot of times sucks getting to that goal. The goal is where they think that all the glamour and the bells and whistles are. Well, us as bow hunters, our journey is really awesome, from getting to prepare, shoot arrows in our backyard, shoot at the range, shoot leagues, shoot tournaments, whatever we're doing, shoot with our family, get out and bow hunt and make mistakes, and then come back and reevaluate to do it again to try to meet our goals of whether it's tagging out or winning a tournament. So our journey doesn't suck. That's where we as bow hunters really have it better than a lot of other activities out there, I would say. So enjoy the monotony, embrace it a little bit. Don't be afraid to put in a little bit of extra work, and let those results come with time. That's my biggest, I guess, message with this video. I hope you enjoyed this little different format. I really want to get into, I should say, sharing some more stories. I've got a ton of stories from my life growing up, my family dynamic being that my dad's first language was Spanish. He speaks English very well now. That culture and some of the lessons I've learned there, in addition to some of my experiences in the field, and in business, because that's another thing that I've learned along the way, the last 12 plus years that I've owned No Limits Archery, and 5-ish, almost 6 years now with Alpha Bow Hunting, that I've learned a lot. And there's people that ask certain questions from the business standpoint. I'd love to be able to answer some of those. I don't know it all. I've never been one to claim that. But I'd like to share some of my lessons and some of my stories with you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. Tune in. My goal here is to get everything back up on Podbean and Stitcher, and hopefully back on iTunes. At the end of the day, it's on YouTube right now. I'm going to be working on this, getting all the channels back in place, so that way if you just want to listen to it, an audio version of it, you have that there for you. So thank you guys for following. Thank you for the people that have reached out to me recently, the people that I got to talk to and hang out with, and really spark a fire back in me from a passion standpoint, to get back into this, because there's times that I think about it, it's like, I've already covered that, I've already talked about that, I've already said this, I've already said that. But then I realize, like, this person just got into this archery bow hunting in the last year. They've stumbled across one of our videos, or I met them through the shop, or whatever the case is. So I'm going to be trying to deliver more content. Some of it might be stuff that we've covered before, but at the end of the day, for those new bow hunters and those new followers or subscribers that we have to the pages and the channels, welcome, thank you. Look at alphabowhunting.com for more videos. We've got a bunch of other content on there. Check out our Facebook, Instagram pages. We do the Alpha Bow Hunting Challenge, which is a it's a different event. There's also live feeds, production quality live feeds on Facebook for those as well. So, hey, end of episode 1, DBAP. Look forward to seeing you guys all in the next one. See you guys soon.